How's it going, guys? I'm Shifty Cow, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the impact grenades and the claymores for Rainbow Six Siege. So this is going to mostly be a bunch of damage testing and a little bit of myth busting showing how you can use them. So if you guys do want to see some more of these guides, feel free to leave a like, comment what you want to see, and as always, it is very awesome if you do subscribe. But anyways, let's hop right into it. Starting things off with the impact grenade, these are usable by Caveira, Castle, Smoke, and Rook. Caveira and Smoke are going to be giving up a nitro cell, and Castle and Rook are going to be giving up their barbed wire to equip these. So you're going to be able to get 2 of them at a time, and while that does sound completely overpowered, they're actually a lot lower damage model than something like a nitro cell. So the first thing we wanted to test off is shield operators. Obviously these guys have a horrible time fighting against people with nitro cells, so the first thing we did is just tested how much damage it does if you hit them directly in the shield. So for both Montaigne and Blitz, it did about 42 damage per hit. So if you actually didn't get hit in the shield, which for us we just put our shield on our back, had our secondary out in front, it does about 47 damage. So either way, if it's a 1v1, you can't be taken from 100% down to 0 with just the impact grenades. So moving on to Blackbeard, who's kind of an interesting operator right now. The impact grenades do about 48 damage if you hit him square in the shield. So the odd thing about this is when we were doing all these tests, the first grenade actually didn't do any damage whatsoever to his shield, and the second one did about 40%. It didn't look like it was quite halfway, so what I think happened is I just missed and it wasn't perfectly on. So the thing that happened is splash damage isn't going to damage Blackbeard's shield, so if you are trying to take it out and destroy his shield, make sure you're hitting it dead on because splash damage isn't going to be doing anything. Moving on to some general damage guides, and these are all direct impact. For tier 1 operators, for this example we used Ash, it did about 62 damage. For tier 2 we used Sledge, and this did about 53 damage, and for tier 3 we used Fuse, and this did 47 damage. So if you're playing as a tier 1 or a tier 2, you can potentially be 2-shotted with the grenades, but if you're on tier 3, it's going to take at least 3 grenades to kill you. As for destruction, these things easily blow through reinforced doorways, trap doors, holes in the wall, floors, ceilings. They can blow through pretty much anything, and if you throw them into a wall, it's going to be just large enough for you to mantle through. And of course, it is going to be able to one-bang any reinforced walls or trap doors, so you're not going to be sitting there throwing multiple at one object. So we actually did a little bit of damage testing through the walls, and so I went as a tier 2 armor operator, which is Sledge, and I just put him right up against the wall, and you'll see right here, he takes about 48 damage through that wall, which is pretty surprising because that's only 5 damage less than he would have taken if he just got hit directly in the chest. So keep that in mind. If you know where someone is or you hear someone, you will be able to do a decent amount of damage through barricades or obstacles or walls or whatever you're breaking through, but it is going to be a slightly lower damage than if you just hit them without the barricade in the way. So on top of that, we also did some range testing to see how far you could lop these things. It's pretty similar to the grenades. It's about 15 meters is where it starts to just completely drop off. And that's just at a flat plane. Keep in mind if you're above them, it's going to go a little bit further because it has more, time to travel. But anyways, 15 meters is about the standard, and that's pretty much it for the impact grenades. Moving on to the claymores, these are going to be for the attackers, and Thatcher, Twitch, Glaz, and Thermite are going to be getting access to these. So Thatcher and Twitch, along with Thermite, are giving up stun grenades, and Glaz is going to be giving up his breaching charges. So these things are actually really good. They do a ton of damage, and we'll get into that in a second, but you deploy with only one of them, and it's going to be a secondary gadget. So hopping into the damage models, for anyone in any tier armor, it's going to one-bang you from 100% to 0. I even tested it with Rook in his armor, and even that was no match for these claymores. They do a ton of damage, and they have a pretty decent amount of range. You'll see that there are some red lasers, and that's a pretty accurate indicator of how far the damage goes off, and also how far away the trigger distance is. So the one thing that was really interesting about these traps is Doc. If you don't know, Doc now has the ability to overheal himself and other teammates, where if you shoot someone with the stim pistol, it's going to bump you up to 120 health if you have enough health already there. So from there, it's going to gradually tick down until it gets back to 100%, but if you actually shoot yourself with your Doc pistol and you truck through these things, you're going to have 15 health left. So that means they do about 105 damage, and that's without Rook's armor. I didn't actually get to test that, but if you do see a Claymore and you just decide, you know what, I need to push through, you can pop yourself with a Doc pistol, run through it, and you're still going to have a little bit of health left over. Moving in to some extra facts, the Claymores have a front-facing charge, which means if you go behind them and one of your teammates doesn't see it and he just runs through it, chances are you're going to take very little or sometimes just no damage even though you're right next to it, because it only goes in one direction and it has kind of like a baseball diamond shaped blast radius. So it is pretty large, but if you can see the red lines, that's a pretty accurate indicator of how large it's going to blow up. Also, we did some testing on whether or not Mute's gadget affected the Claymores, and it looks like they don't. It really has no effect whatsoever, so if you hear a Mute jammer and you're not able to destroy it, these things will still go off and watch your back. And on top of that, if there's any enemy gadgets anywhere near this thing, it's going to be able to blow them up pretty easily. The final test we ran with these things is destruction. So these things are very similar in terms of destructive power to breaching charges. They blow through reinforced doorways, through trapdoors, through floors, even through walls, and you can create big breachable holes through them. And they're really powerful and awesome things. The only thing is you can't choose to blow it up. So an enemy has to come running through, otherwise it's not going to blow up. So that's something to keep in mind, whether or not you want to trade that out for a stun grenade or a breaching charge. I really think it's worth it. But anyways, that's it for this damage guide. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, feel free to leave a like, share, comment, and of course subscribe. But until tomorrow guys, stay buttery.